sweat-slick nights, the lift that felt like oxygen. But here's the part you never saw. This movie almost died in a warehouse. A stack of VHS tapes slotted for the shredder, waiting to erase a whole first love. You were supposed to forget Johnny and Baby before you ever met them. Instead, you get pulled back to the Catskills where rules are ironed crisp and desire moves like a baseline after curfew. You're not just watching, you're sneaking past the lobby, clutching a watermelon, about to trespass into the staff cabin where the floorboards vibrate and everything changes. And just before we dive in, I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers as a small channel. If you'd like to help me keep digging, hit that subscribe button. It truly means a lot. Here are 15 mind-blowing facts you didn't know about Dirty Dancing. The movie was shot in 43 days, and in the wrong season, Dirty Dancing feels like an eternal August. But the cast filmed in October and November 1986 when fall bit hard. Most scenes were shot in Virginia and North Carolina, where leaves were already turning. Crew members had to spray paint trees green and hide frost under blankets of fake summer. The famous lake scene was the worst. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey waded into freezing water, muscles locked and lips blue, trying not to shiver on camera. The cold was so brutal that Swayze later joked the hardest part of the lift wasn't holding Grey. It was keeping his own teeth from chattering. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, yet sure didn't like each other. Their on-screen chemistry is legendary, but off-camera, tension simmered. Swayze was disciplined, trained, and laser-focused, with little patience for retakes. Grey was spontaneous, prone to giggles, and easily distracted. Swayze saw it as unprofessional. Grey thought he was uptight. The friction got so bad that the director sat them down to watch their screen test, reminding them how electric they were together. Something shifted after that. They didn't become best friends, but they learned to use their differences, channeling irritation into the push-pull you see between Baby and Johnny. Ironically, their lack of warmth made their love story burn hotter on film. The film was based on the writer's real-life screenwriter Eleanor Bergstein didn't have to imagine Baby. She was Baby. Growing up in a privileged Jewish family in Brooklyn, she spent summers at upscale Catskills resorts, where she'd slip away to dance with the staff. Frances came from her own first name, and nearly every dance scene drew from lived memory. Basements thumping with forbidden rock and roll, sweat on bare shoulders, a heady mix of rebellion and desire. Even the watermelon moment came from her own awkward teen years. Bergstein once said, writing Dirty Dancing felt like handing her diary to the world, except this diary came with a killer soundtrack. Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner was almost cut. It's the film's most quoted line, but Patrick Swayze nearly killed it. Reading the script, he thought it sounded cheesy, something no tough guy like Johnny would say. He lobbied the director to remove it, but Eleanor Bergstein and Emil Ardolino insisted it stay, calling it Johnny's emotional turning point. Swayze reluctantly agreed. When the scene played in theaters, audiences cheered. Years later, Swayze admitted he'd been wrong, though he also confessed he could never escape the line. At airports, in restaurants, even during interviews, people quoted it back to him. The corner may have been Baby's, but the line became his. The lift was never rehearsed. That legendary final lift wasn't the product of weeks of rehearsal. It wasn't rehearsed at all. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey avoided practicing it because they didn't want to risk injury or lose the spark of spontaneity. The move was risky, especially with Grey's nervousness about heights, but when the cameras rolled, they just went for it. Swayze's strength and Grey's trust lined up perfectly, and they nailed it in a single take. The shock and exhilaration on Grey's face are genuine. She's reacting not just to the moment in the story, but to the fact that they actually pulled it off. The original studio hated it. After the first test screenings, studio executives thought Dirty Dancing was doomed. They worried it was too soft for men and too suggestive for women, predicting it would fail to find an audience. One executive reportedly suggested releasing it for a week and then sending it straight to VHS, where they assumed it would quietly fade away. Another went so far as to propose destroying the negative to avoid storage costs. But word of mouth proved them wrong. Audiences connected deeply with a mix of romance, rebellion, and music, turning what they saw as a liability into one of the biggest surprises of 1987. The soundtrack saved the movie. The soundtrack didn't just complement Dirty Dancing, it became its own cultural force. Selling over 32 million copies worldwide, it outperformed the film itself. I've Had the Time of My Life alone won an Oscar, a Golden Globe, and a Grammy. The mix of nostalgic oldies and original songs gave the movie an authenticity that drew in both young viewers and older audiences longing for the 1960s. Without it, the film might have vanished after a modest box office run. Instead, the music kept it alive, playing at weddings, dances, and summer parties long after the credits rolled, embedding the story in pop culture. Penny's storyline was almost cut by censors. Penny's illegal abortion was one of the boldest subplots in a mainstream romance film of the 80s, and studio executives panicked. They feared it would alienate audiences and trigger backlash. But screenwriter Eleanor Bergstein fought fiercely to keep it, insisting the entire plot hinged on Penny's situation. Without it, Baby's journey of courage and compassion collapsed. She won the battle, and the result was a rare, honest depiction of a taboo subject in Hollywood at the time. Far from turning audiences away, the storyline added depth, making Dirty Dancing more than just a summer romance. It was also a story about empathy. The watermelon scene was improvised. Baby's awkward "I carried a watermelon" line wasn't in the script, it was Jennifer Grey's real-life slip. She blurted it out between takes, and the director loved how genuine it felt. Grey's embarrassment was so authentic that they decided to keep it, making it one of the most relatable moments in the film. The scene perfectly captures Baby's nervous energy around Johnny's world, where she feels out of place yet desperate to belong. That unscripted moment became an iconic piece of movie history, proving that sometimes the most memorable lines aren't written by screenwriters. They're born from pure, unfiltered human awkwardness. Swayze was injured the whole time. During filming, Patrick Swayze was dealing with a serious knee injury from years of dancing and football. He tore ligaments while playing football in high school, and the injury flared up constantly during the shoot. Long dance rehearsals left his knee swollen and unstable, but he refused to let it slow production. You can spot subtle limps in certain scenes, especially during wide shots. Crew members kept ice packs and painkillers on standby, but Swayze powered through with sheer determination. His commitment added a layer of grit to Johnny, because behind the smooth moves, every step cost him something physically real. It was a low-budget gamble. With a budget of only $6 million, Dirty Dancing was a modest production even by 1987 standards. There was no room for elaborate reshoots or luxury accommodations. Cast members stayed in small local hotels, and the crew often had to improvise solutions, like spray painting leaves green to hide the changing seasons. Many happy accidents made it into the final cut because they simply couldn't afford to redo scenes. That raw, unpolished feel helped give the movie its authenticity. In an industry where more money usually means more polish, Dirty Dancing proved that heart, grit, and chemistry could outshine any budget limitations. The Catskills setting was fake. Though set in New York's Catskills, most of the movie was filmed hundreds of miles away. The main resort scenes were shot at Lake Lure, North Carolina, and the Dancing Lodge interiors came from Mountain Lake Lodge in Virginia. These locations were chosen for affordability and availability, not accuracy. Even the iconic Kellerman's sign was a temporary prop, taken down after filming wrapped. Despite the geographical cheat, the film's lush greenery, wooden lodges, and shimmering lake convinced audiences they were deep in upstate New York. To this day, fans still travel to those southern filming spots to relive their favorite scenes. The film wasn't meant to be a teen hit. When Dirty Dancing was released, the studio assumed its main audience would be middle-aged women nostalgic for the early 60s. They marketed it accordingly, downplaying any appeal to younger crowds. But teens and 20-somethings unexpectedly claimed it as their own. Drawn to the rebellious romance and sensual dancing, word-of-mouth screenings exploded, and suddenly the theaters were packed with fans who hadn't even been born when the movie was set. The generational crossover surprised everyone, especially the studio, which had misjudged its audience. Instead of a quiet nostalgia piece, Dirty Dancing became a youth-fueled cultural phenomenon that showed no signs of slowing. Patrick Swayze's real lines. While most of Johnny's dialogue came from the script, Patrick Swayze slipped in moments that were entirely his own. One example is the quiet "You're wild" during a rehearsal scene, a line not written by Eleanor Bergstein. Swayze's ad-libs blurred the lines between actor and character, adding an intimacy that felt less like a movie and more like a stolen moment between two people falling for each other. The director often encouraged this improvisation, knowing it gave the film a raw, unscripted edge. Those unplanned lines became fan favorites, proving that sometimes the smallest, most natural moments resonate the loudest with audiences. Box office risk to cultural icon. When Dirty Dancing premiered, it barely covered its budget on opening weekend. But something unusual happened. Ticket sales didn't drop. Instead, they climbed. The film played for months in some theaters, fueled by repeat viewers who couldn't get enough of Johnny and Baby. Then came VHS, where it exploded into living rooms and became a permanent fixture at slumber parties and family nights. Over the years, it has spawned stage productions, remakes, and endless homages. What began as a risky, low-budget gamble became one of the most beloved romantic dramas ever made. Proof that lightning in a bottle sometimes lasts forever. Now you know the truth. The summer you thought you knew was stitched together from freezing lakes, unplanned lines, and a love story powered by two actors who could barely stand each other. You know the lift wasn't rehearsed, the corner line nearly died, and that a stack of dusty VHS tapes was one bad decision away from erasing it all. But that's the thing about Dirty Dancing. It doesn't fade. It clings like sweat on your back after a midnight dance, like a song you didn't know you knew the words to. It sneaks into weddings, road trips, and kitchen slow dances. Decades pass, but every time the opening chords hit, you're back there. Baby stepping forward, Johnny's hand outstretched, the world holding its breath. Nobody puts Baby in a corner, and nobody buries a story that keeps finding ways to pull you back to the dance floor. Even when you swear you're done, you can walk away from the screen, but you'll keep the rhythm, you'll hum the melody, and somewhere deep down, you'll still be dancing.